I am so sick of these tyrannical judges, George Soros backed judges who hates America. How they fought tooth and nail Democrats um flying to El Salvador to check on an illegal. How much due process are you supposed to get? The man was supposed to be deported, not to El Salvador 2019. He had due process. And how much due process do illegals get? They are not American citizens. They don't have that right. You're not a citizen. You walk through the jungle, you need to go home. Well, all the mayhem y'all committing over here, go home, get out. You ain't no Democrat can look when the police uh do things to black folk. Ain't no Democrat came the way they going after these illegals because they took that George Soros. They got funded by him and his Open Society Foundation. I'm just saying, you get no due process as far as I'm concerned. You're not a citizen. And they going head over heel for illegals that can't even vote for you. And you leave your constituents. I would never vote for a Democrat. This is not the Democratic Party of our parents and grandparents. It's not. These are all funded. The Democratic Party has flipped to what the Republican Party was of the elite. This is not for the working class citizens anymore. It's not. Everything they stand for is against God. But anyway, getting back to this, you in El Salvador, if y'all want the man back so much, y'all travel to El Salvador on taxpayer dollars to tell this man to come back, who is a gang banger, MS-13, human smuggling trafficker, domestic violence, the Maryland man. We want to make sure due process. F him and his due process. Now that's how I feel about it. But anyway, let me get on into this because I'm so sick of hearing about him. I'm sick of it. Alleged MS-13 member Kilgore Abrego Garcia deported by Trump administration to El Salvador mega prison, accused of physically abusing wife, who's fiercely advocating for his return. Honey, she's so glad he gone. Trust and believe me. He was accused of physically abusing his wife. Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sur, applied for protective order against her husband in 2021, saying he punched, scratched, and grabbed her with some of the alleged abuse so severe she was left with bruises and bleeding, according to court documents. In a petition for the order, Vasquez Sur laid out the horrifying allegations that happened in front of their then infant May 4th, 2021. But y'all just fighting for this man. I was watching on my laptop and he yelled at me to turn it off. I told him I wasn't sleepy. He got angry, reached over, shut, and threw my laptop on the floor. And the baby started to cry because he was putting pressure on him. My reaction was to push him off of us, and then he punched, scratched me on my left eye, leaving me bleeding, she detailed in her own handwriting, according to the petition obtained by Fox News. She also accused him of ripping her shorts and shirt during another explosive argument later that day. I ran to the bathroom. He ran behind me, grabbed me by my arm. She added she was afraid to be close to him, per the petition. Vasquez alleged Garcia hit her at least two times in 2020, including in November when he hit her with his boot, and in August he allegedly abused abuse left her with a purple eye. The Department of Homeland Security shared her allegations on X, saying they are evidence that Garcia had a history of violence and was not the upstanding Maryland man the media has portrayed him to be. This MSS gang member is not a sympathetic figure. Vasquez told the Post that when she asked for protection from him in 2021, she was acting out of caution after disagreement with Kilmer in case things escalated after she survived a domestic abuse in a previous relationship. So you got a history of getting your butt kicked. Okay. Things did not escalate, and I decided not to follow through with the civil court process. We were able to work through this situation privately as a family, including by going to counseling. Our marriage only grew stronger in the years that followed. No one's imperfect, no marriage is perfect. The alleged gangbanger's wife argued that Garcia's alleged abuse is not a justification for ICE actions of abducting him and deporting him to a country where he was supposed to be protected from deportation. Things have changed in there. El Salvador has like a zero crime rate at the moment because they locked everybody up. And the gang that he feared, Purple Street Gang, uh, uh, 18th Strip Purple, whatever it is, no longer exists in El Salvador. But he had an order of deportation. And I don't feel sorry for her, him, or his family. She spoke to a crowd of protesters outside a courthouse following the hearing, saying that her husband was a hardworking man trying to achieve the American dream for his family before it was abducted and disappeared. Yeah, he was smuggling people inside of the United States. I find myself pleading with Trump administration and the Bukele administration to stop playing political games with the life of Kilmar. Fuck Kilmar. Today is 34 days after his disappearance. Will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive. Go to El Salvador. Let me see. So, a reliable source, a CI, told Prince George County Police in March 2019 that Abrego Garcia was an active gang member with the Weskis clique, according to a gang interview field sheet. Federal judge on Thursday ruled against a push to hold federal officials in contempt for violating an order to return the alleged MS-13 gangbanger who was deported. It was an administrative error. They didn't check a box or something. Still, U.S. District Judge Policy warned government officials against further gamemanship in the case. Despite it was a clerical error, the White House has asserted that Salvadoran citizens should stay in El Salvador as he should. The feds allege he is an MS-13. His deportation went against a 2019 order blocking the Fed's ability to remove him to El Salvador on the grounds he was at risk for rival gangs that don't exist anymore. Chris Van Hollen, if y'all vote for him in Maryland, y'all crazy as hell. He ain't did nothing for illegal who can't even vote for him. He traveled to El Salvador to push for his release and was blocked. The mother of slain Maryland woman Rachel Moore slammed the Democratic lawmaker for worrying about Garcia while not acknowledging how her daughter was killed by a illegal migrant in 2023. Yes, and they did her dirty. They did. Let me see. So the El Salvadorian president said returning Garcia back to the U.S. is preposterous, despite the Supreme Court order. He not releasing him. They did transfer him to a different prison. Let me see if this article is any different. He been gone to March 15th, lady. Just go ahead and move on and get a divorce. This is nothing new. So then here goes the judge. The court district of Maryland wanted to return to the United, but no later than 11:59:15 on Monday, April 7th. He ain't back yet, is he? The United States filed an application to vacate the district court's order. Okay, so I'll have to, let me see. So then they wanted the government to share. Okay, let me see. I'm so sick of this man. So they said Garcia carried the rank of Chico, which is chief. And I got the paperwork here. Oh, this is from Prince George's County Police Department gang field sheet when they recognized that Garcia was a MS-13 gang member. I forgot I had all this. Oh, shoot. I ain't want to want that. Okay. I'm going to delete all this. Ooh, this going to clear up so much room in my phone. I'm glad he gone. All of them need to go. Every last one of y'all that came through a jungle need to get the hell on. And I had all the legal docs. I'm not even going to show them because I'm tired. But I need to get this off my chest. I'm so sick of hearing the Maryland man. Ain't no Democrats fought for no niggas like that. They ain't tried to free you, get you out of jail, have they? But you fight for illegal who can't even vote for your ass. Oh, don't get me started. So sick of this mess. And I'm going to do another video on birthright citizenship because it was only meant for us to make sure that the descendants of slaves were full citizens of the United States. That's what the 14th Amendment is for black folk. Not everybody. Everything they do for us, they give to everybody else. That's another topic. I already got one video on birthright citizenship where I break it down. I'm so glad to get this. Let me see. That George Soros must have gave them a lot of money. A lot of money to turn their backs on American citizens the way that they have for an illegal. And especially black folks that's fighting for illegals. You don't even fight for your own people like this at all. But y'all black folks fight for illegals, and this is where you call the gatekeepers the black boule, the gatekeepers who do the Illuminati's bidding. And then y'all end up in jail. Don't make no sense. Mm. Oh, this ain't the Maryland man. Oh, this another one. All right, I'm not even gonna go into this one because that's another one. Staying on topic. You know what? Getting off topic though. Do y'all remember that so-called money glitch case where they said, people was just putting checks at Chase and they was getting the money out, talking like that wasn't fraud? Well, they prosecuting every single one of them that did that glitch. I ain't talked about it yet. I just passed that article. I'm just making sure that I'm done with it for this day. Damn, I must have really been researching that day. Damn. Give me a minute. Cause I gotta make sure I'm thorough so I can get this stuff off my phone. Okay, I'm doing that. Oh, I got the 8. Okay, this is when Senator Van Hollen he decided to travel to El Salvador to get the Maryland man, the MS-13 gang member illegal who can't even vote for his dumb ass, and bring him back. And was first denied entry to meet with him. So the Supreme Court and a Maryland federal judge ordered that the U.S. government facilitate, which Bukele already said he ain't gonna release him, his return to the U.S. For what? He was granted an order of deportation 2019. So what? Van Hollen was joined by Chris Newman, who said is the attorney for Garcia's wife and mother, said they are trying to check on the deported man's condition. Where apparently, when you locked up in El Salvador, you have no visitors and no phone calls. Period. They don't even have beds. They don't have no utensils or nothing. They eat with their hands. So at first they wouldn't even let stupid ass Van Holen get to see him. He asked to visit the facility while he was there, and then they granted him a visit with Garcia. The White House slammed Van Holen for making the trip and advocating for Garcia. The administration and the DOJ have claimed with little evidence that Garcia is a gang member. I just they had I had all the documents as well that in 2018 a CI said he was a gang member and he had paperwork through the gang The police officers, gang, police officers, whatever you call it. So all they said, Supreme Court, they should facilitate his return. President Trump slammed Democratic senator for visiting Garcia at El Salvador prison and repeated the claims that his um, arrest was justified. It sure was. I said, now this is Van Holder. If y'all vote for him, he going to bat for illegal that can't even vote for his ass. You ain't seen none of them do that for any of black folks who are their constituents. I ain't never seen these people bat for illegals that can't vote for you. Anyway, he said, my main goal of this trip was to meet with Kilmar. Tonight I had that chance. I have called his wife Jennifer to pass along his message of love. I look forward to providing a full update upon my return. I hope they kick your ass out of office. Garcia's wife was told about the meeting between Van Hollen. Trump lashed out at him. They have no interest in that prisoner. The prisoner's record is unbelievably bad, said President Trump. Girl, and all the Supreme Court said is that they facilitate. But anyway, here you go. This is who they fighting for. A human smuggler. This who they fighting for was caught in Tennessee hauling all them illegals. You can't make this up. And his street name is Chico or Chio, which means chief. I'm not reading all this. Let me see. Oh, you got 19th and 20th. Oh, I thought that was. So Trump claims he's not involved in U.S. negotiations regarding Kilmar. Man, this is a travesty that they fight so hard for somebody. Anyway, Pam Bondi ended up saying that he's not coming back to the U.S. So then a federal judge found probable cause that the Trump administration acted in contempt of court when officials last month defied his order to turn around two planes carrying El Salvadorian citizens in midair. You ain't got that right. They asked Boasberg to issue a nationwide order that requires Trump administration to provide a 30-day notice before attempting to remove. Really? Really? So after that, they had Angel Moms come up, and Patty Moore, the mother of Rachel Moore, who was tragically unalived by illegals, and R. wrote it. R. Great repeatedly. She said she never received one call from Van Holen about her daughter and what happened to her, but he went to bat for this illegal. She discussed the brutal murder of her daughter while hiking. In 2023, Victor Martinez heard a migrant without legal status who had been previously been deported was found guilty on counts of first-degree murder, first-degree rape, and other charges. If you're a mother here in the room, can you imagine standing there alive? You're alive. Someone comes and put their hands into your chest and rips your heart out. That's what it feels like. As she left the room, reporters thanked her for being here and expressed their condolences. But then you go on fighting for an illegal who can't vote for you. Okay, I talked about him, Chris Van Hollen. If y'all put that man back in, so then everybody got pissed off at Trump because Trump said he gonna put the worst of American citizens, send them to El Salvador. I said homegrowns are next. The homegrowns you got to build about five or more places. Trump told them. He said he was studying the laws regarding sending American criminals to foreign prisons, which legal experts said is unconstitutional. Y'all know Trump is a troll. And Trump praised the Salvadorian president for doing a fantastic job. Federal courts have no authority to direct executive branch to conduct foreign relations or exchange with foreign sovereignty in a given matter, the Department of Justice said it in response to a motion for relief for Garcia, the Maryland man, that the courts have no right to fool in foreign affairs, and they don't. Plaintiff's additional relief runs headlong through this constitutional limit. They asked this court to order defendants to make demands of El Salvadoran government dispatch personnel onto the soil of an independent sovereign nation and send a aircraft into airspace of a sovereign foreign nation to extract a citizen of that nation from its custody. Don't make any sense. You can't do that. So then Trump pulled up a picture saying that he had MS-13 tattooed across his hands. That's what this article is. And I'm deleting that because I'm not reading that. Salvadoran President Bukele has refused, and Trump has claimed the decision is up to Bukele. That's despite the fact that the U.S. government is paying El Salvador $6 million to imprison Garcia and more than 250 men. Yeah, they are. Like we have to pay for every prisoner we got locked up here. Same thing. And when they asked his wife about what happened with her, if she was afraid of her husband, she just froze on live television and said, I'm just glad he's alive. Okay, and I talked about the abuse, so we can skip that. Okay, now this when he was um charged with human smuggling. The accused migrant was pulled over by Tennessee Highway Patrol, who discovered 8 people in his car. The occupants all reportedly gave their address as Garcia's, who claimed he was taking them from Texas to Maryland for construction work. However, the officer was left with the impression Garcia had been trafficking the individuals. In both instances, Garcia was let go without charge or conviction because guess what? Homeland Security under Mayorkas told them to let him go. So he told ICE he wasn't afraid to go back to Central America before deportation to Mega. I guess he not. Let me get rid of this article. Let me make sure that is it of this damn fool. And they here in Detroit. They surely is. I see them at Amazon. I just want to make sure this okay. And this is another report when he was pulled over in 2022. Let me get rid of all of this. And unelected federal judges demanding daily updates from the White House demanding about Garcia. That is unreal. Okay, we're gonna get some videos. I'm gonna have to do a part two over here. And let me see. Before I do this, let me see. Because I'm so sick of this fool. He need to go. Here we go. Very smart man joins us next, and I thoroughly enjoyed the research that he did regarding this lie that the media is peddling. It's Will Chamberlain, senior counsel at the Article 3 Project. Will, great to see you. Will, if you were just to watch the mainstream media, let me read the headline from The Atlantic. Quote, the Trump administration has acknowledged that it grabbed a Maryland father with protected status and mistakenly deported him to El Salvador, but claims that courts are powerless to order his return. On campus yesterday, a young man shows up to the microphone screaming, saying, Charlie, they deported a U.S. citizen. I said, no, they did not. Will, what are the facts here? You did all the research. You looked through court documents. What is the truth?
Right. Well, there is administrative error, but they deported an El Salvadoran citizen back to El Salvador.
Fact.
Who crossed illegally in 2012, was detained in 2019, and then tried to claim asylum. He never had asylum, so his protected status, quote unquote, was not that he couldn't be removed from the country. He could. He was a removable alien. The only protection he had was being removed to El Salvador in particular.
Right.
So there was this underlying flaw, but even so, the idea that there's some profound injustice here, that's just wrong.
And so help me understand though, the way that the media is framing it. Here's this poor father, he never should have brought up. What does administrative error mean? There is also evidence that he was part of MS-13. According to Stephen Miller, there was some MS-13 ties. So just, look, when you're running a big operation, errors happen. Let's just be honest. What does administrative error mean?
Well, it just means that they should have gone through a process to try and get this withholding of removal revoked. The reason this withholding of removal was granted is because he came up with this sob story in 2019 where he said, if you send me back to El Salvador, I am likely to be persecuted, maybe even murdered by the 18th Street gang.
Right.
Which is with MS-13 was one of the big gangs in El Salvador. But in the interim, Nayib Bukele has become the president of El Salvador and has effectively punished and has effectively done something to actually, deal with these gangs. And as a result, El Salvador is a safe country now. And the underlying reason why he couldn't be deported there is gone. So the Trump administration could have simply gone to court, got his withholding of removal revoked, and had him sent back. So even though they didn't do that, and therefore there's this administrative error, they should have waited to remove him. The end result would have ultimately been the same. He'd have ended up back in El Salvador.
Facts, period.
That's right. And so thank you for that explanation. Let's go to Stephen Miller also talking about this. And it's very important. And look, you got to be so meticulous here. The Trump administration understands that. But it's not as if they scooped up an American citizen or a green card holder. The media keeps on calling him a Maryland dad. According to the court documents, he has MS-13 ties, and he applied for asylum, testifying that he fears returning to El Salvador because the 18th Street gang was targeting him and threatening him with death because of his family's business, and also has ties to human trafficking. Let's play cut 212.
So you and I have never received in our lives as much positive press as this MS-13 gang member has received. We couldn't get headlines like that if our lives depended on it. Fact one, what do you do with illegal aliens? You deport them. Fact two, he's an MS-13. What do you do with illegal aliens who are also in a transnational terrorist organization? You deport them more quickly. Oh, and on top of that, he's implicated in human trafficking. Deport, deport, deport. This is who they're going to bat for. What are we supposed to do? Buy the guy a house, get him some free health care?
Yeah.
Maybe let him run for Congress?
If you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When's the last time you checked on your home title? That's the legal proof that you own your house. If you're like me, the answer is never. The problem is, in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are
All right,
stealing
Joe,
home
I'm back.
titles, and your equity is the
Okay,
target.
now let me turn
Here's
this
how it works.
off.
Criminals forge your...
Let me get rid of that. Oh shit, that's the wrong fucking thing. Oh, that's wrong. Okay, let's unsend that. I like this. We are not listening, but this is the. I like this man
Welcome,
here.
everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Law of Self-Defense.
We only gonna listen to little legalese.
Beautiful Saturday morning.
Let
I
me
am,
move
of course,
past.
attorney Andrew Branca for the Law of Self-Defense. And today we are here to talk about unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial court Judge Paula Zinnes, apparently suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, which is driving a mental breakdown, an utter mental breakdown in the matter of our good friend and MS-13 terrorist Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, who of course has been deported to the El Salvador prison resort, CCOT. Judge Zinnes's conduct from the bench yesterday can be characterized as little else but a TDS and estrogen-mediated judicial tantrum.
Facts.
Utterly lacking in the judicious demeanor required of judges, and it's an outrageous violation of the Code of Conduct of United States judges, which demands that federal judges should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary and not act like a lunatic from the bench. All of this happened yesterday. So join me as we walk through the petulant behavior of this unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial court judge. This is simply madness. Madness. So, it is just crazy. And it's not just me saying so, folks. It's not just
Facts.
your good host, attorney Andrew Branca. This behavior is being recognized more broadly. Here's an ex-post by Ron Coleman, attorney Ron Coleman, in fact, the attorney for Law of Self-Defense. Ron's my attorney. He posted this about Judge Paula Zinnes' judicial temperament with a clip from Liar Liar. I responded to Ron's post by suggesting that if there's anybody who can just get Paula Zinnes laid, that would be awesome. Guy Amorosano writes, this is
Hold on, let me
outrageous.
just move
Can
past.
appeal to her bosses. The Court of Appeals said, listen, we got a midnight deadline on Monday. This is all happening over the weekend. You think the federal courts are normally working on the weekends? No. So the administration appeals to the bosses of unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial court Judge Paula Zinnes and say, hey, Court of Appeals, you're her bosses. We need you to pause this crazy order, this midnight Monday crazy order. And if you could let us know, like no later than Sunday evening, that would be great, which they declined to do. They didn't do that. They gave no response by Sunday evening. So the White House then goes to their boss, which is, of course, the Supreme Court of the United States, and says, Your Honors, we need an adult in this room. Someone has to step in and stop this madness. It is impossible under our constitutional order that an unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial court judge can order the Article II executive branch to engage in foreign policy negotiation with a
Facts.
sovereign state. They don't have that authority. They don't have the authority to order us to facilitate and effectuate the return of MS-13 terrorist Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia by Monday midnight.
Facts.
The whole thing is outrageous. The overreach of authority is outrageous. The violation of the separation of powers doctrine is outrageous. The midnight
Facts.
deadline in one business day is outrageous.
Facts.
It's madness. Supreme Court, we need you to step in.
Facts.
So the Supreme Court stepped in in the lamest way you could imagine, because they were trying to be respectful to their colleague, the unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial court Polizinis.
Facts.
What should have happened is a pimp slap, is a right hand, left hand.
Facts.
But they were very gentle with her, the majority. Of course, there was a dissent by the usual crowd, by 3 of the 4 women on the Supreme Court. They're very concerned about the welfare of this MS-13 terrorist,
Facts.
who their inferior trial court judge is ordering returned to the U.S. by midnight on Monday, returning a designated terrorist back
Facts.
into U.S. territory. An unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial court judge believes she has the authority to order the Article 2 executive branch elected president to return an identified terrorist into American territory.
Facts.
So the Supreme Court writes all this up. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. See if I can make this even a little bigger. Here we go. Notes that on March 15th, the U.S. removed, I'm going to annotate here, truth, removed MS-13 terrorist Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia from the U.S. to the El Salvador prison resort of Sicat. The United States acknowledges that Abrego Garcia was subject to a withholding order forbidding his removal to El Salvador, and that the removal to El Salvador was therefore illegal. By the way, this is the Supreme Court recharacterizing what the government says, what the executive branch says. The executive branch does not say his removal to El Salvador was illegal, because it was not illegal. What Abrego Garcia had 6 years ago, when he got his final order of deportation from the United States 6 years ago, but was still here,
Facts.
arrested in March of 2025. What he got when he was merely an illegal criminal migrant unlawfully in the U.S. and subject to a final order of deportation was a favor. He got the favor of not being returned, deported to El Salvador. This MS-13 gang member, adjudicated a gang member by the immigration court, by the immigration appeals court, said there's a gang in El Salvador that's mean to me. So if you could not send me there, that would be great. And the U.S. government said, all right, we do this sometimes for our traditional illegal criminal migrants subject to a final order of deportation. We'll agree to not send you to El Salvador. Any other country in the world we can send you to, as Abrego Garcia concedes. Yeah, you can send me anywhere. I would just ask that you not send me to El Salvador. And the government said, okay, we won't do that. And then Abrego Garcia graduated. Congratulations. He graduated from being merely a traditional illegal criminal migrant subject to a final order of deportation to a full-blown MS-13 terrorist, designated as engaged in terrorist activities in the United States. And as a terrorist, guess what happens with this favor of asking that you not be deported to a particular nation? You lose it. Designated terrorists are not favor of withholding or after he was designated a terrorist and no longer eligible for the favor of not being deported to El Salvador.
Facts.
He was deported to the El Salvador prison resort, Sicat for terrorists, after being designated a terrorist. So his removal to Salvador is completely lawful, and the United States has never even judged it was illegal. The worst they said is it was an administrative error. In fact, it is legal. And for SCOTUS to falsely characterize the White House position as conceding that they committed a crime, or at least an illegality, in deporting Abrego Garcia to Sicat is at worst a statement made out of ignorance. The statement made out of ignorance, and that was something. It's misinformation, disinformation. It's just not true.
Right, because he was deported rightfully to El Salvador. Facts. I'm gonna do one more because it's gonna have to be a part because I'm about to go to bed. Here we go to this house.
It's dismantled. It's shuttered. It's gonna do. No, they still have people getting paychecks from USAID. Okay, relax. Not anywhere, and it's 100.
Well, that's. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is this? Wait a minute. Let me see if this is it.
To keep this agency open, right? So they're.
Oh, okay. That's damn. That's the wrong one. Wait a minute. What is this?
Perfectly in the weapon seized from Jalen.
Okay, let me get rid of that. That's TK. Yeah, we done with that. Okay, this gonna be might be a couple of more.
After a Maryland judge set a 5 p.m. deadline today on Garcia's location. Fox 5's Nana Santo Bonsu with the latest. Nana.
Hey, Julie, good evening. So there's a lot developing in this last hour on this Kilmar Abrego Garcia case. But the latest information, according to the Trump administration, is that 29-year-old Kilmar Abrego Garcia is, quote, alive and secure in the terrorism confinement center in El Salvador. And this is all from a source at the United States Embassy in San Salvador. Now, let's catch you up to speed on this case. Almost a month ago, Abrego Garcia was detained and deported by immigration agents to El Salvador. But the government later admitted that it was an administrative error. Since then, attorneys for Garcia and his wife have been fighting to get him back to the United States. The Supreme Court got involved in this back and forth between the Department of Justice and the Maryland District Judge for the return of Garcia. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the DOJ must facilitate the return of Garcia. Now, District Judge Paula Zenas is requesting daily updates from the DOJ on the following. Where is Garcia? What has the government done so far to bring him back? And
daily updates. Impossible. He is in his home country. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. Okay, I think that's it. Anyway, he where he need to be. He ain't coming back. And I'm sick of hearing about this man. Now I'm trying to find this one last video. Oh, here we go. And this will be it.
El Salvador President Bukele called the question preposterous if and when he was asked in the Oval Office about the return of the wrongfully deported Maryland father Kilmar.
He wasn't wrongfully deported. He right where he need to fucking be.
Of discussion about this, as President Trump's top advisors and the President of El Salvador said Monday, they had no basis for the small Central American nation to return the Maryland father who was wrongfully deported there last month. The President Trump administration officials emphasized that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was sent to a gang prison in El Salvador, was a citizen of that country, and the U.S. has no say in his future. Bukele, the president of El Salvador, who has been a vital partner for President Trump in its deportation efforts, said, quote, "Of course, I'm not going to," end quote, release him back to U.S. soil. And this as the meeting wrapping up there between President Trump and Bukele today. All right, let's continue on here on Live Now from Fox and bring into the conversation legal expert, friend of the program.
He ain't coming back. Damn. Hold on. All right, like, share, leave a comment. I'm going to bed. I think that's it. Oh no, here we go. We got another one.
Well, major developments in the case of a man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
The country's president saying he will not send the man back to the U.S. despite a Supreme Court order.
Fox 5 Stephanie Martini's been following the developments all day. There have been a bunch of them, Stephanie.
Hey, well, while the Trump administration has acknowledged mistakenly deporting Kilmar,
that is not true. It was a clerical error.
Living in Maryland is Salvadorian. The administration has said he has alleged gang ties, although the man's lawyers have said he's not involved with MS-13 or any other gang. Abrego Garcia's name came up today during a meeting in the Oval Office where the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, sat down with President Trump and members of the administration. El Salvador has supported the Trump administration as it continues its crackdown on illegal immigration. Bukele said he is eager to work with the U.S. to combat crime from illegal immigration. El Salvador has taken in hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members who have been deported from the U.S. after the president enacted the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, Salvadorian, who is living in Maryland, is one of those deported and currently in a high-security prison in El Salvador with very tough restrictions. The Supreme Court ruled, though, that he should be returned to the U.S.
No, he didn't. No, they didn't. No, the fuck they didn't. No, they didn't.
Over fears he would be persecuted by local gangs. Today in the Oval Office, it came down to an apparent matter of jurisdiction. Here's what the president of El Salvador had to say and what Attorney General Pam Bondi had to say.
How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs. If they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
Just over the weekend,
and he would be deported right back again. He is not a citizen. All right, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, please. Let me make sure that's it for this particular. Yeah, I think it is. Then they had a vigil outside while Bukele was here about that man. I know us black folks don't care what you do with him. I know I don't. He don't need to be here. All right, y'all. Have a good night.